Welcome to No Rules Review with your host, Ethan Millay. 3,000 years ago, in the waning days of the later, a great war broke out that tore the Empire apart, and the Lazaks were exterminated throughout the galaxy. Thousands of years later, the races that once made up the Galactic Council are emerging forth from their terrestrial homeworlds to venture forth into the galaxy again and try to become the dominant force in the Empire. This is Twilight Imperium, specifically Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition by Fantasy Flight Games and Christian Peterson. This is an epic space 4X game, 4X being expand, exploit, explore, expand, exploit, exterminate, got it. For anywhere from 3 to 8, if you have the expansions, players. What can I say about Twilight Imperium? Twilight Imperium is truly an epic game. I got this a while ago, and it sat on my shelf, unplayed, because of the fact that it plays best with 6 or more players. And I wanted to play it. I read about it. I read the rule books. The rule books can be a little daunting, but I finally got a group of people together and we played it. 6 people, all new players to the game. Nobody had ever played of it. I was the expert, and all I had done is read the rule book. It took us 9 hours to play a game. In fact, the first round took 2 hours to complete. So 2 hours for the first round, a 9-hour game, and I play it again right now. It is an amazing game. It is long. It is involved. It can be a little fiddly, but even though the game was 9 hours, it didn't feel like it. I mean, I know we sat down, I started playing, it was daytime, I was sitting with a window behind me. Next thing I know, I turned around and it was night. We stopped for meals and snacks and stuff, but that didn't eat too much into the time. Let's go into the actual game more than me just gushing about it. In Twilight Imperium, the game is played over a series of rounds. Each round, players will select a strategy card that gives them a to deciding their. Once everybody's selected those, you just go around in turn order, taking one action. Those actions are going to be accurate and moving ships into it, building things in it, starting fights, things like that. So it's very procedural. You just keep moving around and around and around. And so the game goes by very quickly because you don't do much on your turn, but everybody else's actions, usually, even people across the board, can be very meaningful to you. Now, I said it's a massive space game, and that's because in this game, there is diplomacy. You can play where you are voting on laws and players. We voted in laws that vastly changed the rules of the game. We destroyed a whole player's home system, absolutely annihilated it because he happened to be controlling Mechatol Rex, the centered planet that everybody fights over at the time that card came up for votes. You start out small and you build these massive fleets. You are slowly inching your way across the galaxy, conquering planets as you go. There is technology. You got a whole technology tree. I wish somebody would come up with a better one tree, that you are researching technologies that make you better and better. Are trade agreements that you make, and you're bartering and negling over the trades. There is obviously space combat. You can build up these massive fleets and you have these stare downs with your neighbors. If you are looking for a game on the table that will mimic something like Civilization, or, it's not real-time strategy, but like an Age of Empires kind of thing. If you grew up playing those games or still play those games on the computer, this is that in a box. And honestly, if you compare it to something like Civilization or like the Total War series, this is infinitely quicker. A game of Civilization, it could be 60 hours. We got this done in 9 hours with a bunch of newbies. I'm sure if we sat down again together to play it, it'd probably be done in 5-6 hours maybe. And yeah, that seems like but 6 people sitting down for 6 hours worth of experience isn't really all that bad. What do you get in the box? In the box, you get about 100 tiles that have systems, planetary systems on them, obstacles, empty space, wormholes that allow you to teleport around the board. You get hundreds of plastic pieces for every player. You get hundreds of cards. Every planet has its own card with its own history on it. If I have one complaint about this game, is that it eats tables. We have a pretty big table, and with 6 people, we were really squished for space. I almost was thinking about bringing out a card table and sort of putting some of the ancillary stuff on that. But it is an amazing game. I mean, some people criticize it. Some people say that it can sometimes have an anticlimactic ending, and ours, just sort of ended, and the person with the most points had won. But you develop these stories in it. It helps that every race that you can play in the game has its own backstory with its own motivation. Every planet has a history to it. You build up your own histories in the game. Somebody takes a planet from you, and you can spend 3 hours trying to recover that planet for the glory of your empire, and it's just amazing. Now, it's not a game for everyone. It is certainly a full-on Ameritrash game. It is very involved. Now, it certainly has some Euro mechanics like the roll selection, but it's a lot of dice rolling. It's a lot of niggly rules that have to do with making it very, very, not realistic, of course, it's not real, but very authentic feeling. You do really feel like you are in the midst of this massive space opera. When I had people come over and I was explaining the game to them, and of course I explained the theme of the game and the backstory, because I think, especially for this game, you want to know what it is you're doing. If you don't have that backstory and you're just moving ships around, it doesn't mean as much, but knowing your race's motivation and what's going on builds it in so much. When I would explain it, people would say, is this a movie? And I said, it honestly should be. They should make a movie out of this. I don't know how good it would be, because they tend to do pretty bad when they take things like this, turn them into movies, but it should be a movie. Um, I believe the game is currently maybe between printings, but Fantasy Flight does keep reprinting it. I would suggest, if it's been on your radar, to get it. I'm probably only going to get to play it once, maybe if I'm lucky twice a year, but that's worth it to me. That's worth it. Just to have it set out and to watch people build up, to build your capital ship and sail it towards enemy space and have them quickly try to shore up a defense when in reality you were going the other way. It's a great game. I'm probably only going to get to play it once or twice a year, but that's worth it. A few years ago, the Shut Up and Sit Down guys did a playthrough of it with players giving their own testimony during the game, and I remember Quentin Smith saying that in Twilight Imperium, sometimes players will lose sight of the ultimate goal of the game and just sort of role play their races, and I found myself doing that. I didn't care if I won or lost the game. I cared that my people, the Sardak Noir, basically giant warlike bugs, had their rightful place in the universe. We conquered planets that meant something to us, and we held them, and we threatened anybody who tried to come in and take it. In my 9 hours of playing, I think I had 2 combats the whole time, and that might seem weird for what is a giant space conquering game, but it worked. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I could have done a lot more, but I enjoyed this sort of, yeah, other people were fighting, and I just carved out my own corner of space, and I made it my own. And now, that's what you get with this game. You get, it's not truly a sandbox, because it isn't that free in what it allows you to do, but it lets your imagination run wild. You play this, and you sort of feel like you're a kid again. It does. It feels like you're kids playing a game together, playing a game of make-believe, where you're telling your own stories. You have the constraints of the rules, but if anything, it furthers it. It furthers it when you get, the constraints of a real political voting. When you have the constraints of how you can slowly move and build your ships. It's worth it for that alone for me. It is an epic, great, just brings out your inner child kind of game. Now, I'll caution again, it has a lot of rules. Not that many once you're playing. Explaining it to people the first time, I think it took me half an hour to maybe 40 minutes of explaining things. Now, granted, people were just getting sat down, and people were talking, and they were distracted by cats and stuff, but I'd say got about half an hour of explaining, and that's explaining the bare basics. But once people get going, once that first round is complete, people understand what they're doing, and then it's a very easy, simple game to do. The biggest issues maybe being production, how many things you can produce in a hex, but there are great videos that explain it. The rulebook's pretty good. I did have all 3 rulebooks because of 2 expansions on my lap the whole time to bring it out. We had rules questions, but I can't highly recommend it enough. I can't believe it's taken me this long to play it. Where was a game like this back when I was in high school? We had all the time in the world. It's never going to leave my collection. It never will. It's that amazing of a game, and I can't wait until I can play it again. I don't think I have anything else to say about it. This has been Ethan Millay with another No Rules review. If you like what you saw, share, like, comment, and especially subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye now. This has been another No Rules review by Ethan Millay. If you enjoyed this video, consider sharing, commenting, liking, and most importantly, subscribing. For this and other great games, join us over on BoardGames.com. Thanks for watching.